On his classic disco track, Got to Have Loving, Don Ray immortally states, "It's a shame to complain, but we gotta have a lot more love. It's a shame to complain, but we gotta have a lot more lovin'." And I first discovered this track through the amazing film The Last Days of Disco, available on Blu-ray from the Criterion Collection. And I fell in love with it immediately, not just because it's so incredibly catchy, but because there's a sort of poetic urgency to it that I find quite touching, quite beautiful. And not in the least because of how it applies to pretty much everything in life, even Latios's often questionable place in Gen 5 OU. So we're going to click the replay at 1 minute into recording. That must be a record for me. So it's funny how seemingly unrelated events in your life can come together to create new meaning. And that's exactly how I got to the subject of Latios in particular in Gen 5 OU. You know, I wasn't expecting to, but just like, for example, just the other day, I had these two friends of mine who are from different parts of my life, and they met for the first time, and now they're interested in each other, and I'm like, oh, this is interesting. I'm gonna, keep my eye on this, because I'd like to see where this goes. And similarly, I've made a lot of videos complaining about Gen 5 OU before, and appreciating its good aspects, its good times. Let that not be forgotten, because the only reason I complain is because I know that it can be great. So I've made a lot of videos complaining about it, and one of the frustrating aspects of Gen 5 OU is that generally it's not clear what's messing it up, right? There are a lot of crazy things running around, and it's tough for the player base to really agree on one particular aspect, when so many others could say, oh, well, no, this is more broken, or, it's only broken because of this, and whatever, right? All these kinds of things, like from Keldeo or from Rain. Thunder Asterion is a fairly new one, but it's pretty crazy. Volcarona, Magic Guard, whatever, right? However, even the players who are anti-ban in general, they agree, along with everyone else. The one constant is that pretty much everyone thinks, yeah, Latios is too much. Latios is crazy busted. Even the people who wouldn't ban Latios, they're like, oh no, we gotta get rid of Latios is busted. Sorry, they don't say we gotta get rid of it, unfortunately. Because, if you ban Latios, you gotta ban Keldeo, and then, that's a lot of change, and I can't really handle that, and, I'm misrepresenting them a little bit. That's not really how they think. I do think that it's a silly position, of course, but I wouldn't want to demean them too much. That's not really fair. Although I would counter that it's not really fair how Gen 5 tiering has been so horribly mangled. But, in the interest of being productive, I thought it would be valuable to shed some light on how Latios leaving Gen 5 OU... Well, that comes to the question in the video, right? Like, you think something is ban-worthy for so long, and then you kind of say, is it really? Am I just, imagining this? And that has real-life parallels, too. You have a problem for a long time, and you think, is this really a problem? Just because you've started getting used to it, right? So we got to explore Latios' place in Gen 5 OU, and this was brought to my attention in an unexpected way. So it started when some of you in the comments were asking for an update on my romantic adventures with the lady Ana de Armas, who was introduced to me by my best friend and loyal subscriber Ryan Gosling, who he keeps texting me. It's not even for for more DPPOU underrated sets or anything. He's just so enthusiastic about watching the channel grow. He's like, oh, Kev, remember to plug that Patreon in your description, so everyone else can donate to it just like I do. And, to watch all your videos through right to the end with ad block off, all that stuff. And I'm like, Ryan, your enthusiasm inspires me to be a better man. Can't wait to see your next movie. Anyway, so I was hesitant at first on spilling too many details of the latest with Anna, because I know it's a public thing and everything, but you don't want to be indecent, right? There has to be some sort of boundary for what can be shared. And I mentioned this to her, and she was like, Kev, look, I know that you know what is appropriate to share and not, right? So I was like, okay, for the fans, they deserve a little something. So, this actually brings us more to some Don Ray lyrics, but those are going to appear later in this story, let me tell you. So, and again, I must stress, this relates to Latios' place in Generation 5OU, because recently, this isn't really a spoiler, but just to give you an idea of where we're going. Recently, I learned why Latios, the real reason why Latios has been let in or kept in Gen 5OU for so long, and it really shocked me. It was kind of like finding out that, oh yes, we did indeed test Kyurem Black in Gen 5OU when there was a bunch of stuff that needed to be banned because Pokemon Online did it, so we had to follow them. I was like, oh no, there's no way we would actually. Oh wow, that's so terrible. Yeah, it's something like that, except a million times worse. So don't worry, we'll get there. Anyway, so the latest with Anna, it was actually a wonderful time, because not just because she's such a lovely person to be around in general, but because I wasn't expecting our romantic dinner to be so mentally stimulating, almost to the point of exhaustion. Not that I didn't expect intelligent conversation with her, but how sometimes you'll go out with someone and you're just gonna, shoot the shit, take it easy, whatever, and then you wind up really getting into it, and it's so refreshing and so exciting. It's just wonderful. So I really was not expecting to discuss with Anna the rise of fascism, both undisguised and, of course, the more insidious disguised forms of it, across Europe and in the U.S. as well. And yeah, I thought that was really important. And she was like, Kev, isn't that actually, a kind of an underlying thing in your upcoming zombie movie, the trailer of which is not that far away from its worldwide premiere? And I was like, Anna, you are completely right. And after this mentally stimulating conversation, actually, I gotta use this as a little springboard for another point I'd like to make, because this is what this platform is useful for. I really, really do not get guys who don't like girls who are smart or smarter than them. I mean, okay, yes, I understand. Like, oh, it's threatening or whatever. It's like, dude, I've been out with some smart girls before, definitely smarter than me, and I don't know how you don't go crazy over that. That was, one of my favorite things about them. I went out with this one from Ukraine last year, and she was so smart. I felt like a moron, especially because she kept making fun of me. Look, let me tell you, the only reason why... actually... Sorry, I tried to say 16 things at once. See, this is why she was making fun of me, because I couldn't get a sentence out. And then I said that it was her fault because I couldn't get over how pretty she was. And then she was like, see, this is why you're a moron, because you say dumb shit like that. But, she liked it, She was smiling, Anyway. What I was trying to say before, I stepped on my own tongue, was that if she was so smart that if she got into competitive Pokemon, oh, look at that, that Latios just Oko to Jirachi with a crit. Yeah, that's cool. Yeah, anyway, if she got into competitive Pokemon, she would kick the fucking shit out of McMegan or anyone you care to name. So... maybe it's a good thing that we don't have her running circles around everyone and lowering our self-esteem even more. Anyway, so intellectual stimulation, great, fun, all that stuff. But after a while, you gotta say, whew, I gotta take a breath. Let's move on to something a little lighter. let's move on to the other essentials of life. You know, the joy in existing, the joy in movement. And Anna was like, "Are you asking me dancing?" And I was like, "Hell yeah." And honestly, that hell yeah, I kind of improvised because I didn't want to look like it wasn't what I was thinking of. Plus, I was scared, there's no way I'm going to be able to dance as well as she does, right? But then I thought about it for like 2 seconds, and I was like, look, Kev, it's daunting at first, but you just gotta get over yourself. Give yourself over to the music. If you like the music, the rest will come, right? You just gotta give yourself over to the music, lose yourself in it completely, and if you have the passion, la pasión, as Angel said to Dexter, on Dexter, then everything else will be fine. And if there's one thing I know that I have a lot of in every aspect of life, arguably too much at times, it's passion. Whether it's competitive Pokemon or movies or whatever I've been into. Like when I was a teenager and early 20-year-old, digging into every possible metal subgenre that I could think of. The most obscure bands. No one who's the band's so obscure they only release demo tapes. That kind of stuff. Yeah, but then of course you need to have variety and joy in life. So all that in mind, actually, funnily enough, that kind of getting over that fear of being vulnerable and really letting loose in the expression of movement and living life and all that stuff. That's also a theme in my little zombie movie trailer, of which is coming soon. How crazy is that? Isn't it just beautiful how it all comes together? Anyway, so we get to the club, and Anna's like, Kev, I can sense you're a little nervous. I'm like, I didn't say anything. She's like, no, you don't have to. So it's these little things. But it's okay, because I know that if you like the music, then you will be just fine. So I slipped the DJ, some money. Not a lot, but I was just like, hey, can you play the Last Days of Disco soundtrack? And he was like, I've been looking for that excuse for years. You have just fulfilled a lifelong dream for me. And she was like, yeah, that's what I do. So, what a woman. So generous. And, yeah, so then we get out there, and Don Ray is blessing us. I can't tell you just how much wisdom there is in that track of his. He tells us that inside this world, there's lots of casual lovers, and unselfish loving, they leave to the others. They got to have it, they can't live without it, but ain't that just a shame the way that they go about it? And then the background singers come in, it's wonderful. So, we're just going crazy, having a great time. And who do I spot out on the dance floor but my best buddy, Ryan Gosling? And he's having a great time. Let me tell you, that guy has some serious moves. Mirror B would be jealous. And he's got a funky disco outfit, too. I knew that guy had a kooky side to him. And he saw me, and he was like, Kevin, Anna, oh my god, this is amazing. And he danced right over to us, and let me tell you, I borrowed some of those moves later on. And he was like, Kev, I gotta tell you, I'm having a great time, but I've got this little existential thing, nibbling at my mind. And I'm like, hit me, Ryan. I'm here to help. So then he goes, look, I've just been wondering, is Latios really that band worthy in Gen 5 OU? And I was like, Ryan, look, in this world you find the kind that would please you. One day they love you, and the next day they leave you. They love to be loved, but seldom return it. They're using up a good thing, and they just don't deserve it. And he was like, Kev, I love this song too, but you gotta focus. Latios, Gen 5 OU. And I'm like, oh, okay, you're making me think of something so disgusting. It's such a beautiful place, at such a beautiful time. He's like, no, we just gotta find the answer, everything will be fine. And he was like, okay, sure. Latios, yes, we have played with it for a while. We've lived with it. You know how, like, sometimes you'll be out partying with some people and everything was having a good time, taking it easy, and then one person has that little moment. It's like, oh, God, where's this going? Which is not to minimize that. Everyone has been that person as well as had that happen to someone around them. but you just hope that it's something that you can manage, because it is a shame when that kind of thing can overwhelm the good time that you're trying to have. So I made it my goal to help Ryan with this. So he asked, look, so we've dealt with Latios for a while, right? Is it really that bad? I mean, it's not like it outspeeds and OHKOs everything. I'm like, Ryan, by that metric, almost nothing would be banned. He was like, I know. It's just, yeah, I know that the whole it forces pursuit and you can't deal with it repeatedly defensively, and it's so good against everything offensive, and it's just too strong. It's just absurd, right? And I was like, yeah, so what's the problem? Why wouldn't you ban it? It's like, I don't know. It's just that, okay, this is going to sound stupid. I was like, nothing is stupid here. I was like, you know what? I found out, through some gossip, and I was like, oh, tell me. I'm a huge gossip. Sometimes. I'm a huge tea spiller. And he was like, all right, well, if you can believe it, Ryan Reynolds doesn't believe that Latios is broken in Gen 5 OU. And I was like, okay, who gives a fuck what Ryan Reynolds thinks? He was like, well, you know how people really like that whole, perpetually detached, insincere, hyper sarcastic, overt, like irony poisoned thing Ryan Reynolds does? And I was like, yeah. And he was like, well, apparently he made a bunch of, sarcastic quips about Latios not being busted in Gen 5 OU, or Latios being busted in Gen 5 OU, excuse me. And everyone was like, oh, well, he made it sound so ridiculous, the very prospect of Latios being busted. It's like, oh, it's not like Teen Tars on every team. You can hear him pushing up his glasses and doing the actually thing. And I was like, okay, so you're telling me that because of Ryan Reynolds, Latios has not been banned in Gen 5 OU. He's like, yeah. It's like, okay, well, that's a horrible shame. But, again, I have to emphasize, who gives a fuck what Ryan Reynolds thinks about Gen 5 OU? So, and then he, Ryan Gosling, of course, I thought I saw Ryan Reynolds out of the corner of my eye, but then I knew I was hallucinating. And I refused to let that nonsense of my paranoia intrude on my good time. So, yeah. Ryan, so I asked Ryan, you silly goose, do you really think that just because Ryan Reynolds says Latios isn't broken in Gen 5 OU and shouldn't be banned, that that's actually the case? He was like, no, okay, I guess not. He's like, people say a lot of stuff should have been banned, or shouldn't have been banned, pardon me. Does that make it correct? People used to say that about Doug Trio. People used to say that about Baton Pass. And then, Ryan started cracking up because he realized when you put it like that, it's kind of kooky, right? It's wacky, it's hijinks, it's shenanigans, it's nonsense. How can you possibly take something like that seriously? Latios is clearly, fucking insane. And the only thing more insane than Latios is the fact that it's still in Gen 5 OU. And our continued inaction regarding its tiering status is a blight on humanity, a black mark on our collective character. And that's pretty much all there is to that. And then he's like, you know what, Kev, you have set my mind at ease. And yeah, that was pretty much that. And yeah. And then he and Anna made plans to, see about a third Blade Runner movie. And he's like, yeah, no, I know the ending of 2 and it was perfect and beautiful or whatever, but look, it can't be as bad as The Gray Man, right? Anyway, that's pretty much everything. Latios is clearly fucking insane in Gen 5 OU. And really, I was just in a disco mood. I wonder why, as of my adventures the other night. Let me tell you, nothing will get you moving like the Last Days of Disco soundtrack. Got to Have Lovin' might not even be the best song on it. I like Let's All Chant. That's a great one. And so before I leave you, I would like to impart upon you Don Ray's final words of wisdom, which and I really do mean this sincerely. Keep this in mind. A world so big can make a person feel lonely. You got no money, and your clothes may be homely. But if your pocket's light as a feather, just wrap yourself in lovin' and you'll feel a lot better. Thank you for watching / listening, and that's pretty much it. You know, The Last Days of Disco, great film, and I hope that one day we will be in the last days of Latios in Gen 5 OU.